So Tanya, you
Yeah.
are a chiropractor, but
Yes.
you do more than adjust people's
Yeah,
backs.
I do. Well, most chiropractors are not back doctors. That's kind of what we've been relegated to. What chiropractors are nervous system doctors. So we remove interference from the nervous system. And
Remove interference.
yeah, because the nervous system is the part of your body that communicates with the environment, internally and externally. It works perfectly all the time. But when there's interference, that's when there's a problem.
When you say interference, what could interference be?
It could be a subluxation, which is what you're thinking of, most people are thinking of when they're thinking of chiropractic. They're thinking of somebody moving bones. The reason why they move bones is because a subluxation, which means a partial dislocation of the vertebrae, there's usually a nervous system component to that because the vertebrae have this opening on the side where nerves come out and they go to all parts of the body. All the organs, every part of the body has nerves.
You're coming from a little bit of a different perspective on health. Chiropractors in general definitely look at health a little bit differently than say, I've got a headache, I should take a Tylenol.
Yeah. Western model is Newtonian.
Newtonian.
It's a great way of physics describing things that are non-living, like billiard balls on a pool table. If you hit ball A, it bumps into ball B, and it'll put ball C into the pocket. But that's not how our bodies work, because we have spirit. We have something that cannot be named. The French would say, that je ne sais quoi, that thing that can't be named, because your body is an animate object, and Newtonian physics doesn't work on living systems. Quantum physics does. And so what I do is quantum healing.
Quantum healing.
Well, we're all vibration. The reason why we decide that I'm sitting in a chair is because we agree that this is a solid object, but it's not really solid. There's atoms moving all the time. When we're dealing with vibration, which is what people are, vibration, we have to deal with their health on a vibrational level too, because we're vibration.
People talk about an individual having energy. Is that kind of what you're talking about when you talk about vibration?
Yeah, if you look at a molecule, it has electrons moving, and the electrons moving are what creates the molecule. Just like with your eyesight, you can see certain colors, and that's because those electrons are vibrating at that wavelength. There's also lots of things that you can't see, like you can't see microwaves.
Right.
And you can't see radio waves.
So one way
Doesn't mean they don't exist.
Right. And so maybe one way to convince someone who doesn't believe that we are emitting energy, a field of energy around us, would be to take a microwave reader and walk up to a microwave oven that's even turned off, and it's still emitting it, and you get farther away and it's not there anymore. And so there's a field.
Yeah, in fact, we can do that with people. There's a really cool demonstration that we do with, it sounds very odd, with a hanger, that the hanger actually will move depending on how close we get to the person's field. And if you're thinking positive, expanding thoughts, your field is bigger. And if you're thinking negative, contracting thoughts, your field is smaller.
Now that's probably the thing that is the hardest, I think, for maybe someone to wrap their head around, is the idea that
Their
what you're
thoughts.
thinking could somehow affect a field of energy that can't be seen, and that somehow correlates with their health.
Yeah, well, let me give you an example of how this works. What we're talking about is your thoughts creating your physiology. So let me do a little experiment with you. Are you game?
Sure.
It'll only take a minute.
Sure.
All right, so just close your eyes and think of a table in front of you with a lemon on it. And there's a cutting board and a knife. And this lemon is so beautiful, it looks like the picture of a lemon. And it's just gorgeous yellow color. And you put your hand on it, and you take the knife in your hand, and you take a slice. Now you can really smell it. And you can smell the oil and the juice coming out of it.
Right now.
This is my point. We haven't even finished the exercise, and you're already salivating.
I don't drool right now.
Is there a lemon in front of you?
No.
Well, imagine cutting the lemon open and taking a wedge and putting it in your mouth and biting down. See, you're already salivating and you're just thinking about the lemon.
So we can, with
So your
our thoughts, affect our body.
All the time. It's happening without you even being aware of it, because your subconscious is doing it. Your subconscious is running your body right now.
What would you say to someone who's, suffering from?
You know what I say to a new patient when they come in?
How does that
Okay.
work?
Well, what I tell them is there's part of your nervous system that's running your body right now, and there's part that you're running with your thoughts. Like you're deciding to nod your head.
Right.
That's voluntary motion. Now you can have interference there without pain, and eventually if the interference is great enough and it's left alone and it continues, then you won't be able to nod your head very much anymore. There's part of your nervous system that's automatic. It's called the autonomic nervous system. And that's what's running all your organs, glands, everything else. So the part of you that's not thinking is running your body. That's your subconscious. That's what's in control of it. So when you're in a situation where you feel threatened, whether it's real threat or just something that you perceive, your body goes into fight or flight response. Blood goes to the large muscle groups so that you can run away or that you can stay and fight. And your blood pressure goes up and your heart rate goes up and your pupils dilate so you can let more light in and see what's going on. And if you're stuck in that because you're fearing in relationships, in your work, with your children, with finances, I mean, it could be anything that you're in fear. And the body just stays there.
So the idea is that you have this stressor in your life, and my neck pain isn't because I have not stretched right. It's because...
You know what people say all the time? I slept wrong.
I slept wrong. I say that all the time.
Not because you're sleeping wrong. I know, people think I slept wrong. Well, first of all, you can't sleep wrong. There's something going on that's telling the body this is appropriate response to the information that it's getting.
Right.
So it's getting information, it compares that information to memory, and it says, oh yeah, I remember when we do this, something negative happens, I'm going to go into fight or flight because I want to make sure I'm in survival. And I survive. Your body is designed to survive. It's not designed to do anything else except survive. So everything that it does is in response to a signal that it's not surviving.
Most people, I don't think, would think about the memories from their life.
Well, that's what you base everything you do on.
Right. Most people wouldn't think, I have this chronic pain in my body because...
I can't forgive my dad.
Forgiveness is a huge part of it.
Oh, it's huge. Huh. It's huge.
That makes sense, because if you're mad at somebody and you can't get it out of your system,
every time you think of them, you go back to being angry. And what's anger? Fight or flight response. Every negative emotion is basically fear. Every positive emotion is basically love. So you have a choice all the time. You can either walk in fear or walk in love. But walking in love means that you have to subjugate your pride. And a lot of people don't want to do that because their ego is so built up, or their ego is weak, so they have to keep propping it up. See, this is all about how your body works, because every thought you have is based on a belief you have. So some people believe that you have to have disease, so they're sick. And some people believe in perfect health, so they don't ever get sick.
So someone who believes that they're healthy, but doesn't eat well and doesn't take care of themselves, how are they going to fare in this?
Everybody knows somebody who's like 85 years old and they're still smoking and they've never had lung cancer or any other problem.
Right.
Because they're happy.
Yeah. Like
they're happy doing that. Yeah, exactly. I was just talking to my mom. She's 80. She's been smoking since she was like 20 years old. I'm like, when are you going to quit? She's like, I stopped asking her. She's happy smoking. It would be so much stress for her now to stop.
Yeah.
She doesn't have anything wrong with her. She takes no drugs. She doesn't go for a walk. She eats whatever. She eats pretty well, but she doesn't exercise. She doesn't do any of those things. What we're talking about is people who are happy. They've let go of all the stuff that bothered them. Why should it bother them anymore? You know, it's the idea of the belief that everything happens to the highest good. So if everything's to the highest good, well, just count it all joy. So I'm talking about this big picture thing, and we're really supposed to be talking about health, and how does all this relate to that? Well, people over time have taken parts of themselves and they send it to this person for that problem and this person to that problem. And so they think of themselves as, well, I'm mind over here, and I'm body over here, and I'm spirit when I go to church.
Right.
And it's not like
So
that.
I have my therapist, I have my ear, nose, and throat doctor,
right,
my podiatrist, and my,
exactly.
and my priest.
That's not how our bodies work. That's not how our lives work. In fact, we're seeing the result of that right now with the increase in obesity, with people shooting each other for no apparent reason. All these people that are on medication because they're unhappy and depressed, it's because their lives get segmented and there's nobody that they can go to talk about all these things and to deal with all of it. So my idea is that in the future, people aren't going to go to all these separate people who don't even talk to each other about the same person. They actually are going to go to one person who can really look at them as a whole being. So in the work that I do, when I have somebody come in and they say I have neck pain, what I think is, look at this perfect person here. Let's see what's not theirs and release it.
Like not forgiving someone. Things
Like the grudges, and maybe there's bad habits that you don't feel good about. I mean, if you feel great eating whatever you want and food is your friend, then, no big deal. But if you're using it as a way to fill a void that can't be filled by food, then you get obese, you see? Doesn't everybody have a friend that's thin and they eat whatever they want? Because they don't look at food that way. Food isn't something that's going to make them feel loved.
Right, and the Western model would say, oh, they just have a more active metabolism.
Maybe they do.
But you're saying they're affecting your metabolism by
Sure.
their attitude.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so interesting. It's, I've definitely learned a lot about different holistic remedies and approaches over the years. So this isn't such a far stretch for me to understand, but thank you for explaining some of that so that the people watching the show can
yeah,
understand it.
It's definitely a different way of looking at things, and in my point of view, it's more holistic than trying to separate things out, and we've seen what that does. It doesn't help anybody. I'm going to say something outrageous, and that is there aren't less people dying of cancer right now because we have all this money going toward cancer research. It's just not happening. There's not a thing under a microscope that's the cause of cancer. It's not a thing that you can do something to. This is why people are getting sicker and sicker, and they're not getting any better because they keep trying to think there's some magic thing that they can put in their body that's going to create the life they want. Well, that's not the way it works. You create the life you want through what your dreams are and your aspirations and your attitude and your passions and paying attention to those things.
That's probably a really hard one for people to
it's a lot of responsibility.
Because, for some people what they hear from that is, oh, you've given yourself cancer.
Yeah,
And
a lot of people...
I can see people just shutting down and saying, I don't want to hear anymore.
No, they go into blame. And the whole point is that it's not about blame at all. We all have this. We're human beings, and we're raised in this culture. Now, there are some cultures that aren't like that. There are some cultures that don't believe that you get old and then get sick and die. You get old and then you decide you don't want to continue anymore here and you move on. That's what they believe.